say at the front, the reason we're doing this question is because I thought, well, we did a Keep Church question with our music program. This would probably be a good thing to follow that up with. But I feel awkward with this question because I almost feel like as any attempt to answer it is going to try to make me look right. And I don't want our congregation to walk out of here thinking John's defending himself or Mike's defending himself. I want us to take responsibility when we drop the ball. And we do that. I do that quite a bit. But there's an assumption in this question, and the assumption is that Mike and I are not following through with people that are no longer attending. And we actually are.
And in cases that's true, but we're making some attempts. We want to share that.
Sure. Well, I think the reality is for 10 people that stop coming, if 9 of them you and I make contact with and talk to, and the one we don't, that one person is asked, hey, did John or Mike reach out to me? Well, I haven't heard from them yet. Then we look like we're falling down on the job. So we are attempting to reach out, but we aren't reaching everybody. And I think there is an assumption in this question that maybe as pastors, that should be our focus, that we are responsible for reaching out to everybody that's leaving to kind of find out why they're not here and get them to come back and whatever. And that really is a hard thing to do once a church gets to a certain size. In fact, the question was, is the church so big that pastors can't do that? Maybe I would say the answer is yeah. I think we have 1,524 members. We average between 350 and 400 on Sunday. And so it's hard.
So on any given Sunday, about 1,100 of our people on the roll are here.
Right. And so it's not easy to stay in touch with everybody. Now, I think it's important to say here, the reality is people do leave churches. It happens in every church. Sometimes they leave for very legitimate reasons. For example, one young lady, I officiated her wedding a few weeks back. Now she's married, she's leaving here, and she's moved to Texas. So her connection to Eden Church is going to change. She can't commute home every weekend for Texas. But there are times when people leave for other reasons. They don't like the pastor, they don't like the programs. I've talked to a lot of people that I've never met because they've never been to church since I've been here. They're part of that 1,500 plus who got upset in the past because something had happened to Eden regarding some issue, and they decided I'm not going to go back there anymore. And the question is that really a legitimate response to that? It depends on a case-by-case basis. So, are Mike and I concerned about people leaving the church? Are you concerned?
Absolutely.
So am I. Do you think that people that leave the church need follow-up?
Yeah, they do. And, there's several ways, really.
Well, I want to say, I think they do too. So let me go ahead.
Well, I think that, as John said, in a church of this size, it really takes a team approach. We have to realize that, large church, you have to have a lot of people involved, a lot of people engaged. And there's several ways to look at that. What is the team? For example, I do visitation for the elderly, for shut-ins, and those in nursing homes. But then in addition to that, there's a pastoral care team that does some visits to assist with that. And just this last week, I became aware of a lady who, now she had not been active in the church for some time, and her children do not attend. They're not members of Eden. And so that's why I guess there's been kind of a loss of connection or communication. But I just found out that she had a stroke last year, and that she's not living in her home, but she is living in her home, but she's not able to drive. And so learning about her, learning her name, I called her on the telephone, introduced myself, we had a great conversation, lovely lady, and next week, I'm going to her home and taking communion. And it makes me wonder, how many other people like that are there that we just kind of fall through the cracks, we've lost contact with. So I want to say this, if you're aware of anyone else who's kind of in that situation, please let me know. I'll be glad to call them, to offer to come and bring communion for them, and to reestablish that connection.
Mike, I want to say a few things. I think we're going to need to wrap up for the communion service. I think when it's a team effort, it's not just Mike and I as a team, or Mike and I and committees in the church being a team, we all are on that team together here. And so, here's my suggestion. The best person to reach out to, the person you're thinking about right now, is you. Because you have a relationship with them, you know them, you have the freedom to kind of build and ask them about what's going on. So here's what I would do. If you see someone no longer attending, tell them you missed them. Ask them why. Ask them for clarifying questions. If they say, well, I don't like Pastor John or whatever, say, well, what do you mean? What do you don't like? And then here's the next thing. Ask them if they've talked to a pastor about it. Or a council member. We have council members who's our spiritual leaders, and they would be more than happy to talk with folks and to hear what they have to say. Ask them not only if they have